Hello and welcome to the National Security Conversation. It has been 5 months since the BJP-led government in New Delhi took the momentous decision to withdraw the special status of Jammu and Kashmir and divide the state into two union territories. While some of the restrictions were lifted recently, 3 of the state's former chief ministers continue to be in detention. Dr. Farooq Abdullah, a former chief minister and a sitting member of the Indian Parliament, has not been able to attend the sessions of the Parliament. The Indian Supreme Court will soon hear the petitions challenging the government's August decision on Kashmir. There is an uneasy calm in the Kashmir Valley today. Infiltration attempts are on the rise, ceasefire violations are on the upswing, and the alienation in the Kashmir Valley among the Kashmiris is more than ever. Pakistan has clearly upped the ante on the Kashmir question, even though its behavior, I would say, continues to be restrained thanks to the FATF pressure on Islamabad. Once that pressure eases next month, Pakistan could potentially change its military tactics, which will have implications for Kashmir. We do not know what might happen in Kashmir once the snow melts and the restrictions are removed. Or will the government continue with the lockdown, restrictions, detention of politicians and the true presence in the Kashmir Valley until things become normal again? Will the situation in Kashmir become normal again at all? The government has stood its ground so far. Over the past month, though, we have seen some desperation and a subtle outreach for ideas on how to go forward in Kashmir. Is the government today realizing that it has bit more than it can chew? Is the government looking for some off-ramps at this point as far as Kashmir is concerned? I have a very distinguished politician with me today to discuss what lies ahead for Kashmir. Mr. P. Chidambaram is a senior leader of the Congress party. He is a member of the Rajya Sabha and was India's Home Minister and Finance Minister. Welcome to the National Security Conversation, Mr. Chidambaram. If I may begin by asking you whether we have lost Kashmir, not militarily and materially, but in a politically and symbolically, in that sense of the term, is there a major storm in the making? Is India prepared to deal with that storm?
Well, all the reports that I get, and these are sketchy, from friends in Kashmir, tells me that the Kashmir Valley, those 7.5 million people, are practically lost. There are only now 2 categories of people. One who said, don't trust the Indian government.
Right.
And one who said, we were wrong in trusting the Indian government.
So what does that mean for India in the days to come? Are we looking at a major national security challenge for the country?
It will be a major national security challenge as long as the current government is in office and continues with its muscular, militaristic, majoritarian approach to the Kashmir Valley. And I'm keeping out Ladakh and Kargil, Leh and Jammu out of this discussion for the time being. If this government is replaced by a more enlightened government, it will mean a long haul to retrieve the valley.
You know, from a long-term strategic point of view, how do you evaluate the BJP's policy towards Kashmir, given the fact that we have been having these troubles in Kashmir for a very long time and people were tired of that? Something had to be done, and the BJP said, okay, we are taking a major step. And for the moment, they seem to have contained the situation.
No. That's a deceptive calm. They may have contained the situation in the rest of India by dampening any expectations among any other sections of the people. But clearly, as far as the valley is concerned, they have not contained the situation. They put a lid on a volcano. Now, what they hope to achieve by this, I can't say, but this is not the way to go. The way to normalcy was the policy that was followed after 2010. Engagement, increasing engagement, interlocutors, thinking of various short and long-term measures. And the BJP continued it, in fact, until about the middle of 2015. And you see the graph of violence, incidents, security persons killed, civilians killed. The graph declined from 2010 and continued to decline in 2014 and 15. I was very happy they were continuing the old policy and they will deepen it, go maybe the Vajpayee route. But I don't know why they changed their policy in 2015. And since 2015, the graph has started rising again in terms of incidents and killings and injuries. For example, in 2019, the largest number of incidents, 2019, the largest number of security personnel killed, and civilian deaths and civilian injuries. I have got figures up to November 15, and they show that those figures are more or less on par with 2018. There were 6 weeks thereafter. So in about a couple of weeks, we will have numbers which will show that the numbers have crossed the 2018 number.
You know, the BJP could argue with you that in the wake of the 2010 agitations, there were almost 100 civilian deaths in the Kashmir Valley. But since the August decision, they say no lives have been lost, which may be a complete overstatement.
That's not correct.
That's not correct. Say, but no, there's no way 100 lives have been lost in the valley. So to that extent,
100 lives were lost because of stone pelting and the response of the security forces. But we changed tack in 2010. In 2010, we pulled up the state government. You remember the unprecedented Cabinet Committee on Security's resolution, virtually reprimanding the J&K government and say change course. It was perhaps the first time as the Cabinet Committee on Security had adopted a resolution. And we then brought the state government and the security forces on board to change course. And the change of course was visible in the 7-8 years thereafter. So you can't say that we didn't change course. Again they changed course in 2015, which is a mystery to me. Why they did that, I don't know.
No, their argument is that if you do not have these security restrictions in Jammu and Kashmir, people will come onto streets, there will be stone pelting, there will be pushback, and there will be killings. So
there
at this point,
no stone pelting after 2011. There have been protests, but there has also been engagement. People were talking. And we were deepening the engagement through the interlocutors. My regret is we didn't implement the interlocutors' report. That is a separate subject. But the government that came in 2014 ought to have picked up the thread where we left it and continued the engagement. Why have they changed course? Forget the UPA. Why have they dramatically changed course from the Vajpayee line?
Right. So is the BJP ideologically motivated about doing something in Kashmir, or is it sheer mismanagement?
No, I think the message they are sending to Kashmiris and the Kashmiri people, J&K, when I say Kashmiri, J&K, and the rest of India is, J&K is not a Muslim-dominated state. J&K has a Hindu part, a Buddhist part, and a Muslim part. Maybe the valley is dominated, but that's only a small part of J&K. And we will bring the valley under our heel, even while we forge more close ties with the Jammu and Ladakh. They are sending a clear message that J&K may have acceded to India as a Muslim state, but it's no longer a Muslim state.
So this is an ideological message.
Yeah.
Is it an ideological message to the Indian Muslims?
In fact, after dismemberment of J&K, if you continue to call the valley a state, it is not, it's a union territory, half a union territory. There is no Muslim-dominated state in India today.
That's right. You know, the rationale that the BJP is giving for what they did in Kashmir in August is interesting. They're saying it is to bring an end to terrorism and separatism,
Have they?
to stop Pakistan's interference in
Have
Kashmir,
they?
and to begin a new brand of politics. It
Pakistan-
sounds good.
Pakistan continues to interfere every day. How does the government say there have been no deaths? Even yesterday, a soldier was cremated somewhere. People are being killed on the border, inside Jammu and Kashmir. Why do you say there are no deaths at all? Civilians have died.
The BJP says that we need a new kind of politics in Kashmir. We need to bring in
This is not the
new
way.
leaders, new politics, new negotiations.
Show me an example where 7.5 million people have been kept under the boots of the security forces for too long.
Well, that was the case in the 90s.
But
We
that is
used to
wrong.
have such security.
That was wrong. The 90s was wrong. What we did pre-90, after that rigged election of 1983, isn't it?
87, 84.
84, whatever, 83, 84 was wrong. All those was wrong policies. We alienated larger and larger sections of the people. And after 2010, we were trying to win them over.
It was the Congress party in power in 1984.
Yes, so what?
in India.
I'm saying so. Congress party has also made mistakes. I mean, you can go back to Jawaharlal Nehru. Sheikh Abdullah was put in detention for many years, which I think was wrong.
But this was going on for far too long. So what should have been done, or what can be done? Because same old politics is not going to work. Something new needs to be
The
done.
answer is engaging the people, trying to understand what they want in the year 2020. I don't think they want or asking for what they used to ask, say, immediately after accession. I think even the Kashmir people realize that that kind of autonomy minus 3 or 4 subjects is no longer possible, because India is far too integrated with the Kashmir Valley. Communications, complete integration, railway, power. Now, these are matters on which there is far greater integration. I think we need to respect the sentiments of the Kashmir people and give them that degree of autonomy which is consistent with today's situation. Let me ask you, what are we doing, what are we advocating in Sri Lanka? Even today, to Mr. Gotabaksa, what are we advocating? We are saying give a large degree of autonomy to the north and eastern provinces. When President Gotabaya visited India, the message that was given to him was give a large degree of autonomy to the north and eastern provinces. His answer has always been, but my other provinces don't want the autonomy. Then we say, doesn't matter. There can be asymmetric devolution of power. Give it to these 2 provinces. If the others don't want it, don't give it to them. Now, advocating this in Sri Lanka, why are we denying it to the state which acceded on the ground that you will give us autonomy?
Why go that far? We have an ongoing negotiation with the Nagas.
Yes. When you enter into a settlement with Nagaland, is it going to be symmetric devolution of powers to Nagaland and other states? You are bound to give them more powers which have not been given to other states. Now, how are you going to justify that? If you can justify that, why can't you justify giving a larger degree of autonomy to Kashmir? Let's break it down to practical issues. Now, there's a Waqf Act. Now, why can't Kashmir have its own Waqf Act? We have a Factories Act. Why can't Kashmir have its own Factories Act? Are the heavens going to fall if Kashmir adopts its own Factories Act? That act will also be more or less on the same lines as the Factories Act that applies in the rest of India, except that they will have the satisfaction that they drafted it and passed it in their legislature. So I think many of these issues are blown out of proportion.
You know, going back to August again, of the 2 things that have happened, one is the withdrawal of the special status and converting the state into 2 union territories. Which one do you have a problem with, the first or the second?
Both. The state is under siege, at least the valley is under siege. And I don't think in any democratic country, you can place a whole state or a large part of a erstwhile state under siege.
That's a manner in which it was done, not the substance of it. The substance is that you've
The
withdrawn
substance is a constitutional defilement. They have virtually committed a constitutional sacrilege by using Article 370 to get rid of Article 370. The matter is in the Supreme Court. The judgment has been reserved, so I rather not comment on it. But I'm clear in my mind, and so are many, many other people, that one paper called it constitutional chicanery, one paper called it constitutional defilement. What they did was completely wrong. But let's wait for the Supreme Court judgment on that.
Is it also then correct to argue that since 1952, all the presidential orders that have been issued to water down, to dilute Article 370 by various governments, they are also wrong?
No, they are not wrong. The getting rid of 370 was wrong.
So you can dilute it, but you can't get rid of it.
We didn't dilute it. We extended more and more centrally passed laws to Jammu and Kashmir.
Which is diluting Article 370,
Which
right?
is not a wise thing to do, but that is not unconstitutional.
Right, it's not unconstitutional.
This
that's
is
right.
unconstitutional, is my view.
So you have a problem with the substance of it and
Absolutely.
the manner in it.
Absolutely. On the day after August 5, we have all spoken, written, why it is a constitutional desecration.
So you're a Supreme Court lawyer. What do you think the court should do in this regard?
It's not for me to say what I think the court should do. I can only say my view of what was done. But ultimately, one has to accept the interpretation placed by the Supreme Court. And the judgment is expected, I'm told, very shortly.
Right. On the 31st of December, you tweeted, "Our first greetings for the new year must go to Farooq Abdullah, Omar Abdullah, Mehbooba Mufti and other leaders detained in J&K since August 5 without any charge. May the new year bring them freedom and justice." The Congress government had put Sheikh Abdullah in jail for 11
But I've
years.
said so, it is wrong. You can't hold me answerable
of
or
course not.
accountable for what happened 40 years ago.
What about AFSPA and PSA? They have been
AFSPA, my position has been AFSPA should be replaced by a more humane law. Within the government, we agreed that AFSPA can be amended, if not replaced. But unfortunately, that consensus could not be carried out into a law. We in fact had a draft to amend AFSPA. 2 or 3 sections of AFSPA could have been amended to make it a more humane law.
Why was this not carried out?
Because there is no consensus. The other cabinet ministers take a different view.
If you don't mind me asking, after the August 5 decision, leaders from the opposition parties were disallowed to go to Jammu and Kashmir, to Srinagar. And you did tweet, "Can a visitor not ask for freedom to meet different sections of the people and to inquire about the welfare of the soldiers?" But while you were the Home Minister, sir, Sushma Swaraj, Arun Jaitley, Anand Kumar were stopped from entering Jammu city to participate in the Tiranga Yatra of the BJP's youth wing.
Yeah, but that was not a all-time ban. Perhaps the state government stopped them in Jammu airport for that particular day, for that particular event. But they have been there before and after. Many, many leaders have visited Jammu and Kashmir before and after. For that one particular event, because of law and order. But today, nobody is allowed to go except invited right-wing
MEPs.
European Parliament MEPs.
That's right. What you do?
I can understand if on one particular day you don't allow people to go because it will exacerbate the law and order situation.
What would you do if you were the Home Minister of India at this point of time?
This is a wrong question to ask because I don't have full information. You share full information with me, share full data with me.
Okay, let me ask the question differently. How did you manage the situation after 2010
We
in
did.
Jammu and Kashmir?
We changed course. We deliberately changed course. We made it public that we are changing course. We pulled up the state government of Omar Abdullah. We brought him to our side and said, listen, this approach is wrong. We have to adopt a more humane and a more democratic approach. And bless him, he came on board. And then you saw the rapid improvement in the situation.
You actually led an all-party delegation to Kashmir. You sent 3 interlocutors, very respected interlocutors to Kashmir. And I read somewhere you say that you do regret the fact that the interlocutors' report was not taken seriously into consideration.
See, one of the reasons was I left the Home Ministry.
But it was submitted under your ministership.
That's what I'm saying. If I had remained in the Home Ministry for another year and a half, maybe it could have been implemented. I left the Home Ministry. And secondly, there was not enough political will to implement the report. So within a cabinet, a minister can only press his point of view. If he does not have the support of the other members of the cabinet, you can't push through a policy just because you believe it's right. The only person who can do that is the Prime Minister. Right. No other minister can do that.
Unlike the other insurgencies in India, especially in the northeast, the Jammu and Kashmir problem is exacerbated by the fact that there is Pakistan on the other side. How do we deal with that country vis-a-vis Jammu and Kashmir?
You deal with Pakistan as an external threat. We have said, and I have said it repeatedly, strengthen your security forces at the border. Make sure not a creature enters the border. But leave the hinterland relatively free of the overpowering presence of security forces. At the border, you stop any infiltrator, kill him, shoot him, I have no problem. If there is any incursion, repel it. If you have to do cross-border action, do cross-border action. But that is at the border. If you stop the infiltrator or the insurgent at the border, in a matter of weeks or months, the local insurgents will either be flushed out or will die down. You don't take adequate steps on the border and you take all the action in the hinterland.
But Pakistan's interference in Jammu and Kashmir is more than infiltration, right?
Of course they will, because they claim Kashmir. Na?
That's right. And there is support for Pakistan in sections of Jammu and Kashmir.
Not very many, not much. There may have been support in the early 50s and 60s. But my reading is that after experiencing what Pakistan has gone through in the last 60 years, and after witnessing what India has gone through in the last 60 years, I don't think a very large number in Kashmir Valley, we are again talking about the valley, wants to join Pakistan. I don't believe that at all.
People like Alisha Gilani, for instance.
Yeah. So one person here and there. In fact, the first time I visited Kashmir after I took over as Home Minister, there was a complete band. Complete band. But when I led the all-party delegation, nearly 3,000 people came to meet us. We held 2 days of discussions from morn till midnight. People came and poured out their grievances and demands. And I still remember one young lady, I think she was a doctor, she said, "Why are there so many security people around my home and my street and my town?" I asked her, "Where would you like us to send them?" She said, "Send them to the border." Now that's a very important statement. What is she saying? She recognizes that there is a border, and that border must be secured by Indian security forces, which means she recognizes India's sovereignty over the state of which she is a member.
Right.
All that she wants is, again she comes out with Azadi. Ask, what is Azadi? Different people have their different interpretations. I understand their Azadi, and I think we can go back and talk to them and reaffirm our impressions. My understanding of their claim for Azadi is, give us the sense of pride that we are a state that acceded to India under certain terms. Give us a degree of autonomy that gives us a special status. If your Article 371 onwards to 371G or H or K or whatever, can give some special features to many states of India, why can't you have a 370 amended which gives a special status to Kashmir? Why is 370 differently seen than 371 and 371A onwards?
So what I'm trying to basically get at when I bring in Pakistan here is, can we actually resolve the Jammu and Kashmir problem or issue without having one track with the Pakistani side? Is that even possible?
You cannot in the long run. But if Pakistan is intransigent and continues to claim what is now under Indian control. See, remember Farooq Abdullah said, let the line of control be the international border. Right. Now that, I don't know whether that is a solution that is acceptable to both sides. I'm not advocating one way or another. I'm only repeating what Farooq Abdullah said. If claims to territory are given up by Pakistan, then it's only a question of settling the border issue. Where is the border?
You know, from 2004 to 2007, when the Congress government was in power, there was a serious discrete negotiation happening in the back channel between Ambassador Lamba and Tariq Aziz, based on the so-called four-point formula proposed by General Pervez Musharraf. In 2007, it had, I am told, reached a stage where things would have been resolved by the two sides. They had a formula in mind. Could you tell our viewers something about that? What was
I'm
that
not
about?
privy to that, so I can't say. 2007, I was not even in the Home Ministry. I went to the Home Ministry only in 2008.
So the cabinet hadn't discussed
No,
this?
Cabinet never discussed this matter. So I'm not privy to all that. They used to say that Mr. Vajpayee almost reached a settlement in Agra when Mr. Advani scuttled it. I've heard stories that in 2007, Dr. Singh and Mr. Musharraf had agreed on some formula. But I'm not privy to that. Only Dr. Singh can speak on that.
Hypothetically speaking, the argument is that you cannot have this artificial division of Jammu and Kashmir. You need to have some sort of an arrangement where people go back and forth. There are the CBMs that were finalized in 2004. You need to have some sort of joint institutions between the two sides. If that were to be brought back to the negotiating table, how would the Congress party respond to that?
See, if it is a question of where the border will be drawn.
Or make borders irrelevant, as Manmohan Singh.
No, borders will never become irrelevant. In fact, where in the world has borders become irrelevant, tell me? In Europe? No. There has to be a border. We claim the border as the border that was drawn when partition took place. That border has changed because Pakistan occupies a large part of the territory that fell to India. Right. There's a new line of control. Now, various options have been suggested. They can be explored. Suppose a line of control becomes a border. Let me make it clear. I'm not advocating it. Farooq Abdullah did. If the line of control becomes a border, and so both sides agree, the issue is settled, na? Practically settled. It's only where the border is.
But that's one extreme. The other is soft border, that you can have a soft border.
I don't believe so. Once you have a border, then all the incidents that apply to a border will apply. Passport control, trade, customs control, and some degree of freedom for people who live in the border villages to cross into each other. But that is the way international law works. There's a border, all the incidents of a border will apply. And why shouldn't it apply? If it can apply between India and Bangladesh, if it can apply between India and Bhutan, India and China, it will apply between India and Pakistan. I'm not very impressed by this argument of soft border. All I want is an agreement on a border. That's right. Where is the border? Is it the original border as we claim? Is it a new border incorporating all of Kashmir Valley into Pakistan as they claim? Or is it going to be the line of control? Or is it going to be some other line? The issue can be reduced to a border issue if it can be reduced to a border issue. It's not. If it can be reduced to a border issue, most problems will be solved. But it is not a border issue because both have claims to territory.
At this point of time, the Indian government has alienated the people of Jammu and Kashmir, and there is no conversation going on between India and Pakistan. And if Pakistan is unavoidable when we talk about resolving Jammu and Kashmir, the BJP's argument is that unless and until Pakistan stops terrorism, there is not going to be any discussions with Pakistan. How do we overcome that?
Pakistan will not stop its anti-Indian activities until its claims to the territory are not met. The claims to territory will never be met. So Pakistan will not. It's a vicious circular argument. The answer is to first engage with our people, try to understand what they want, and win their hearts and minds. Then negotiate with Pakistan and find a settlement. And until a settlement is arrived at least some kind of a no incident border like we have with China.
Right.
The same issue with China, the question is where is the border to be drawn?
Absolutely.
But pending that, there is no shooting war between India and China does not send insurgents into India. But Pakistan is. Therefore, I think we need first to arrive at an understanding with our own people who will remain with us, people who are our citizens in land that will belong to us in the future. Come to a settlement with them. Try to understand what they want and how they can be satisfied. You don't do that. Where is the question of negotiating with Pakistan?
I agree with that. I think the first part is that you reach out to Kashmiris, but you are saying, in other words, notwithstanding what Pakistan does to India, as a state, there is no way you can avoid talking to Pakistan, negotiating with Pakistan.
Because ultimately, the question is where will the border be drawn?
That's right. So that needs to be talked about.
Yes. That can only be talked about with the other party. See, ultimately, what is the issue? Issue is, where is the border? Is it the 1947 partition border, or is it the line of control, or some other line?
That's right. In March 2019, you wrote in the Indian Express, there are valuable lessons to be learned from the successes in eliminating separatism in Punjab and containing Maoism, including in West Bengal. The lessons are: 1, firmness and maximum force in dealing with the adversary, and 2, fairness and a conciliatory approach in dealing with the rest of the people.
Yes.
That's what you just said. Where is the BJP going wrong?
The BJP is going wrong because it looks upon the entire 7.5 million people as militants, as anti-nationals, as pro-Pakistanis. I don't think there's anyone in the valley whom the BJP trusts.
BJP did trust the PDP. Now we know what has happened to the PDP.
I don't know if the BJP trusted the PDP or the PDP was inveigled into a coalition with BJP. It was an unnatural coalition. On day one, I said this coalition will collapse.
The Supreme Court in November this year reportedly observed that there has to be a balance between personal liberty of a person and national security. The bench said so while dealing with a batch of 9 petitions pertaining to the restrictions in the valley. Do you agree with the Supreme Court's observations?
These are observations made by one or more judges on the bench. Ultimately, what will bind is the judgment. I can only say what Benjamin Franklin said. If someone wishes to sacrifice a little personal liberty for a little more personal security, he deserves neither liberty nor security. Right. Liberty is paramount. Yes, the state must be secured, but not at the cost of liberty. What they have done to the detainees since August 5 is an outrageous assault on liberty. And I would have fervently hoped and prayed that the Supreme Court heard the habeas corpus petitions quickly and gave a verdict on the habeas corpus petitions. The other constitutional questions could have been dealt with at greater leisure. But I think the habeas corpus petitions pending since the middle of August was unfortunate.
My final question. What do you think is going to happen to India's reputation and image, given what is happening in Kashmir, given what is happening in the rest of India on the Citizenship Amendment Act and the NRC, as it were?
It's already taken a big beating. You heard the former National Security Advisor make a statement yesterday, which is reported widely today. We are increasingly isolated. Read the latest issue of The Economist. It's hyphenated India, stripping Muslims of citizenship, Pakistan, and Trump in one sentence. Now, we are not in a very distinguished company to be linked with Pakistan and Mr. Trump. Our international standing has taken a very big beating in the last few weeks, thanks to what we did in Kashmir and thanks to what you are doing with the CAA, NRC, NPR, etc.
Mr. Chidambaram, wonderful talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
To receive instant updates on all videos from The Wire, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Pay to support independent journalism. Click the link in the description and choose the amount you want to pay.